You want to feel your belly raising as you're inhaling and breathing out. And once again.
Welcome back to the Zabe Builds podcast, where we talk all things construction, smarter building, and raising the standard across the industry. Today, I am very excited to have Tom Henderson, a local builder, who's doing some seriously thoughtful and future-focused work right here in Canberra. Tom from 35 Degrees. He's a carpenter by trade who got his start in Europe, was it?
That's correct, in Denmark.
Denmark, yeah. And brought that influence back home to shape the way he builds. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Tell us about that, Tom.
Well, I met my wife when I was hitchhiking around in Europe, and after 4 years over in Denmark, convinced her to come back down to this part of the world where the skies are a bit bluer. And but I sort of joked that I got into energy efficient housing down here because I was constantly hearing her complaining about how cold and drafty Australian homes were.
Yeah.
So that became, my focus, and it was an interesting experience. I started my trade fairly late, relatively late to many apprentices. I was 25.
Yep.
I'd just become a father, and I'd spent quite a few years roaming around Europe doing whatever job came my way, being a chef and a cook in a Mexican restaurant in Scotland, or working on farms in France and doing some volunteer work in war-torn Yugoslavia it was then.
Yep.
Becoming a parent, I think, was one of those moments in life where you have to, for me it was about committing to something.
Yep.
And taking responsibility. And the only thing I really knew I wanted to do was to build my own house.
Yep.
And I was wanting to build a straw bale home. So I've always been really interested in sustainable.
Is that with the lime on it?
Lime render.
Lime render, yeah.
That's right, yes. So I figured, okay, well, I've got to get a full-time job. I'll learn how to build properly. So I started an apprenticeship over in Copenhagen.
Yep.
And that was, it was a bit challenging actually to start with, because I was a pretty idealistic and maybe naive young man. And I probably entered into carpentry with a lot of romantic ideas about wood shavings and the smell of timber. And the reality was there's a lot of plasterboard dust and scratchy, itchy insulation and toxic oils. So I think the first 6 months were a bit of a sort of a realigning my expectations. But I ended up doing the first 2 years of my apprenticeship in Denmark, and I loved that for multiple reasons. They've got a really strong building tradition.
Yeah,
that goes back centuries. And like one of the projects we were doing was the old school mortise and tenon joints, sort of the half timbered housing, which really.
Oh, that is like the fundamental carpentry, isn't it?
It is.
Like that is what I see as like real carpentry. Really working with timber, the dovetail joints and. Is that minimal nails?
Absolutely. Yeah. The nails were timber plugs.
Yep.
And we had an old boat builder as a teacher, really old hard line fella that we had to get out learn how to use these old bow saws.
Yep.
Let alone using power tools. It was going back. So that was fantastic. And also, I think one of the things I appreciated over there was the respect that the trades are held in Denmark. So you'll find that all the electricians, for example, regardless of the company they work for, they all wear red pants. And all the plumbers, regardless of the company, have blue pants.
Yep.
All the carpenters either have khaki or white, depending on what part of the country they're in. But, in that, there's kind of like this uniform and pride.
Tradition.
Yeah. That's right. And coming home to Canberra in 2000, I remember I completed my apprenticeship here.
Yeah.
And I was busy insulating around the windows that we just installed, and the builder I was working for at the time was, "What the bloody hell are you doing, Tom? Get off that. No, don't waste your time on that." So, started seeing some of the differences. I mean, in terms of what's similar, I find that tradespeople here are equally as skilled as those in Denmark. It's just that I think the cultural tradition that maintains I'd say, frankly, a higher standard of building.
Yep.
So so that's the...
So do you have to learn another language over there?
I did.
Right. That would have been really interesting to learn carpentry in a different language.
It was. That was part of my interest in being in Europe for 8 years in total. I'd sort of learnt some conversational French and Spanish and a bit of Serbo-Croat in ex-Yugoslavia, which comes in handy, by the way, in the Canberra building industry with so many Serbo-Croats spoken.
Yeah.
But learnt to speak Danish fluently, and it was funny to come home, and I hadn't built in Australia, so I actually had to learn the technical English building language, understand what a stud and a noggin and a top plate was. I knew the Danish words for that. So that was
I mean, like you sort of learn it again almost like, because we have interesting jargon over here for carpentry, I feel anyway. Like you watch the American videos and you think that's not called that.
Everyone's got their slight take on it. The Kiwis calling noggins dwangers, I think it is.
Yeah. That's interesting how that stuff happens. So then you started. You're a carpenter here for a while.
Yep.
And I think we met when you were doing. Was it the advanced diploma or was it the?
Yes, that's right.
Diploma?
Yep, that's right. So I spent completed my apprenticeship.
Yep.
And then started subbing like many carpenters do.
Yep.
And I ended up working for a few builders that I just felt a bit disgruntled, probably with the work culture.
Yep.
And I thought, well, look, I've got the opportunity to go out and start my own business and create my own business culture.
Yep.
And so, got my builder's license and like many sort of, worked my way up from sort of decks and pergolas and I'd be doing a full extension for an owner builder and then getting my license and...
I like what you said there about the culture because that's sort of why I started my business way back when. I sort of felt like there wasn't enough care or appreciation for the people, the people that I was working for didn't really, I guess, understand my story or want to understand it. And they were sort of like, just get to it, what I mean? And I felt like at the time that was what was missing in the industry, like a little bit more care and a little bit more understanding. Like everyone's got their own challenges in life and I'm just trying to do my best and I'm sure the next person is as well. So it's interesting you say that.
Well, it reminds me of another example I used to sort of paint that picture of the difference between the two trade, the education. In Denmark, they had you were at school, high school will get graded from sort of a D for a fail and an A plus. So they had a similar system there for the carpentry apprentices. And if you were getting on an A or an A plus, you would at the end of your apprenticeship, the Danish Queen would present you with a medal.
Really?
And I was on target to get one of these medals and it was just so motivating, this thought of, wow, the Danish Queen might be presenting me with this medal for good workmanship. And coming back to Bruce TAFE, the marking system there, it was just simply a pass or a fail.
Competent, non-competent.
That's right. And it really lacked that, it lacked that sense of motivation to really strive higher. And I remember the teacher, there was one guy in the class that was really struggling and, the teacher was like, you'll be right, Jack. We'll get you over the line. And it was kind of maybe the best and the worst of Australian culture in that we're there to, look after you and support you. But at the same time, maybe the quality isn't really being...
Let's shift the bar a little bit. We can.
That's right.
We can.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, 35 Degrees is the name of your company. Now, can you tell us about 35 Degrees? Where'd the name come from? I know. But for everyone listening, it's a pretty cool story. Like what the ethos is there, what you're doing and why you started it and where you're at now.
Yes. Well, 35 Degrees, name by the way, is it would have been called 35 Degrees South if that name hadn't already been taken, but it's a reference to our latitude.
That's Canberra. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
We've got such a unique climate here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a reference to place, to building for place.
Yeah.
35 Degrees is the third business that I've started. The first one was Tom Henderson Design and Construction. I couldn't think of anything better than that at the time. But I think to note was that it was design and construction. I've always had a passion for design and a interest in things being involved in that stage of it. Mm-hmm. I think just building is only part of it. It's that meeting clients early on in the process and understanding their problem and being a part of solving that problem.
Well, they work hand in hand, the construction and the design, don't they?
They do. I mean, there's so much, there can be so much tension between those two also.
Definitely.
And I think I've really made it my mission, I suppose, is to find ways to smooth out turn that tension into creative tension and to that diverse views from architects and builders and to bring it together.
It's always good tension. There's good intent behind it. We're trying to do the best for our clients, and the designer has their thought process, and as a builder, you've got your thought process. Yeah,
I'm sure we've both seen situations on site where you might not say it's good tension, but no, that's certainly the way we want to frame it. And then in 2009, I started founded a company called Jigsaw Housing.
Yep.
Which was ended up a partnership between myself, the builder, an architect, and then a building scientist joined.
Yep.
And that was business lasted for about 5 years. That was a really exciting journey because what we were focused on in the latter stages of Tom Henderson Design and Construction, I'd built a $1 million house, which back then was a big deal. Certainly thought it was a big deal. But after building, it was like, okay, well, that wasn't really, I don't know, it stoked the ego, but it wasn't
the challenge you were looking for.
Well, I realized the challenge that I was really interested in was how to make energy efficient housing more affordable or more mainstream.
Yeah.
And so what Jigsaw Housing focused on was, that was in the middle of the McMansion phase, which you could argue still exists. But so what we did, we sort of took the opposite path and focused on smaller or more modest, well-designed homes. So it's about quality rather than quantity.
Yep.
And so that was combining a builder's skills and architect skills and using the data from science, building science, to that collaboration. And what we found was there was this huge market in Canberra that was seeking that work because Canberra's a unique place in that we've got some of the coldest winters, some of the hottest summers of the capital cities. We've got a very cosmopolitan population, and a lot of people have lived abroad. They've experienced maybe better quality housing abroad.
Yep.
We've got the highest average income.
Yep.
Highest average education. Mm-hmm. So there was a real calling for smarter more houses that really responded to the Canberra climate. So that business, I think we started as a couple of employees, and in 5 years there was 18 of us. So it was very successful in some senses. We were always swamped with work. In other senses, it was a challenge because we grew too quickly.
Yeah.
And none of us directors really had experience in managing a business of that size.
It's tricky. It's really tricky.
It was really tricky.
And you got all these people saying, we want you to do this job, we want you to do this job, and you're like, yeah, we can do it. And then you hire more people, and then, it can become really tough.
Yes. And, the concept of success is, you learned a huge amount of lessons there, some really tough ones too.
Yep.
So we decided to split the business up. So the construction wing of it became 35 Degrees.
Yep.
Jigsaw Housing became Lighthouse Architecture and Science. 35 Degrees has been around since about 2015.
Yep. Now, you were just talking about the science.
Yeah.
obviously energy efficient building, it requires a lot of science. Can you just talk to me about what that science looks like? And for people that don't understand what energy efficient homes are or smart homes, can you explain that?
Sure. And look, maybe I don't want to make it sound too complex because in reality it's not.
Yeah.
It's actually super simple. Look, it does get more complicated, but let's start with the simple. And the simple starts with solar passive design.
Yep.
Which has been around for decades. And that's as simple as designing around the orientation.
Yep.
So maximizing that northern access or maximizing your access to winter sunlight.
To keep the house warm the house up, right?
Warm it up, bring that sunlight into the home, incorporating some thermal mass.
Mm-hmm.
So the concrete slab is an excellent form of thermal mass.
Yep.
That sun hitting it heats it up during the days like today where it's beautiful and sunny. Canberra has so much winter sunlight. So we're ideal place for solar passive design.
Absolutely.
So orientation, thermal mass, insulating very well.
Yep. Now thermal mass is through the earth, right? That's how.
So thermal mass is concrete is a good form of thermal mass. So it's the ability of a material to absorb and retain.
That's it.
Heat or cool.
Yep. That's what I was looking for. I couldn't quite, you know, you get all these terms in the passive house building type thing. And it's like, I know what that is, but explaining it can get a little bit tricky. But it is really simple when you think about it.
Those concepts are really simple. Now, then it starts to get a little bit more complex because when we start to insulate the house really well, and another aspect is, and just to clarify a few terms here, there's solar passive design, which we've just described. Then there's passive house design, and passive house is a building methodology that was born in Germany in the 1990s.
Is that the air changes?
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's where there's a lot of focus. Again, there's a focus on high levels of insulation.
Yeah.
But air tightness becomes a really important aspect here. And I'll give you an example. You can imagine if you've got a loose knit jumper and you're sitting inside in the winter on the sofa and you'd be nice and warm in that. But imagine you go outside and you jump on your bike and you're in a windy conditions. Those loose knit jumpers,
the wind just cuts straight through it.
They do.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the concept of insulation is about creating still pockets of air.
Yeah.
And so that example of a loose knit jumper, if you apply that to a house, if you've got air that's traveling through your wall cavity, even if you've got a lot of insulation, if that air is traveling through it, that insulation is considerably reduced. Its effectiveness. So that's where you see homes these days which have more focus on the wrapping of homes.
It's the Extasana, is that one?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we've wrapped homes for many years, often with that aluminium foil.
Yeah.
But that Extasana you mentioned, that's a vapor permeable wrap.
Yeah.
So similar to your Gore-Tex jacket, which allows you to breathe.
Yeah.
So Extasana or those vapor permeable wraps allow the house to breathe.
Yeah.
And why is that important? Well, when you've insulated the house so much more, if you imagine a
esky, I got top. The way I got it described was you want to build an esky with windows in it that can breathe.
Yeah, which doesn't sound particularly attractive.
It doesn't.
But yeah, there's a concept there. Look, we can start maybe there's a bit of a wormhole there with the science, but in short, it's you have to start managing the condensation risks. So
that's where that barrier allows the moisture to get out, or the moisture rich air even
allows it to breathe. That's right. Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's
right. Yeah. I think carpentry with the passive house and the other, what's the other one called again?
So solar passive design,
solar passive
and
design,
passive house.
Passive house. Yeah. I think they work really well. You know, there's a lot of guys in Melbourne that do it. There's a few different guys here in Canberra that do it. I know there's Sydney. It's not as much. But I feel like, when you walk into a solar passive house, was it the 10-star house they built in Crace that actually turns with the sun?
That's right. Yeah, I don't know if it was 10-star, but yeah,
was it 9-star?
Something
ridiculous.
It might have been. But on that, I suppose our passion is trying to find that sweet spot between cost effectiveness and performance and cost.
Yeah.
And that's where we don't build things like that rotating house. The
cost is ridiculous with that.
Yeah, I think there's a big argument for diminishing returns.
Yeah.
And we're wanting to our mission is to allow more Canberrans to experience the benefits of energy efficient homes, which is...
Well, look, the government's forcing us to do that, sort of, with the 7-star energy rating, which I think is a good thing for Canberra.
Yep.
Because we've got such a vastly different winter, summer, spring, I think having a passive home, a passive home really pays dividends in the long run. Over less energy you're going to have to spend on heating and cooling your home. And they're just more comfortable.
It pays dividends, but also just the well-being of being in a house that has all that winter light. It's just, you can't put a price on that.
Yep.
I grew up in a glorified fibro shed out at on the Hoskins Towns Plains, and one of my strongest memories growing up out there was lying in the just on the inside near the sliding door with the sunlight coming through. It's just all that winter sunlight, having access to it, having a healthy, warm, light-filled home. It's
and they're really quiet too.
Yes,
and that's because of the insulation and the windows.
Yeah,
a lot of window, like you're seeing the Govies here, they're all single glazed, and as soon as you walk into a home with even double glazed windows, you sort of think, oh, it's so quiet in here. You can't hear anything. I think that's a big benefit as well.
Absolutely.
Are people here more aware of good design and sustainability, do you think?
Definitely. For those reasons I was mentioning earlier, just many Canberrans have maybe lived abroad, been on postings abroad. Certainly a lot of our clients have that background, or, through the ANU or CSIRO, DFAT, sort of a lot of where our clients come from. So I think just having awareness of what a house can feel like. They come home and go, I think this could be done better. Can you help us?
We always hear, when I was an apprentice, we worked with a couple of different Irish carpenters, and there was a few Danish ones as well, I think, a few Finnish carpenters, and they always talked about the difference in construction in Australia compared to, say, Ireland or Finland, and about how, the walls seem so thin here and the windows seem so thin. And I always thought that to be quite interesting, because I feel like we have a good quality of building here, but I feel like Canberra's unique climate, we need to do things a little bit more, be a bit more conscious of the climate.
Yeah, I think what we don't have here is a really strong tradition to fall back on. I think of my father's family, extended family, are all on the land out around sort of Deniliquin. And those houses are so cold.
They are.
So when we build for clients here in Canberra, we often ask them, where are you? Get an idea of their background, because everyone's the level of heating they need in the house is so dependent on. And if people have come from the country, often they don't want a house that's at 21 degrees, which is what my wife expects through the winter. So I think, and you're saying Sydney doesn't have such a strong tradition for energy efficient housing, simply because their climate is so much milder. Melbourne does.
Melbourne really does.
Canberra does. Tasmania does. So it depends on there's that climatic influence and tradition.
Really. It's sort of necessary almost.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing about Australia, I think. That's why I really like living here. You've got such a broad range of requirements all across Australia. I know, like over in Western Australia, they build double brick flat out. They just love it over there. And because the double brick keeps the heat out. And And yeah, it's an interesting way to build over there.
Yeah.
They do a lot of cut roof frames over there too.
Yeah, but our diversity in climate catches us out. I mean, you see some of those homes in Cooma, for example, freezing cold place. They were built in the 60s for the what was it, the snowy hydro, and it's fibro shacks without any insulation. So maybe you've taken a building type that might have worked on the mid-coast of New South Wales.
Yeah.
So, look, that's what the building code is much better at. They've got all these zones, different climatic zones, and we need to respond.
It's getting better and better.
Yeah.
What do most people get wrong about sustainable building or passive home building?
Yeah.
I like to call it sustainable.
Yeah,
I mean, when you think about it, like you're building that home for 50, 60, 70, possibly even 100 years.
Yeah. Maybe to phrase that question just a different way, I might say, what's the big opportunity that's being missed?
Yep.
And I would say investing in the thought and consideration into the design.
Yep.
And that might sound a bit strange coming from a builder, but the solar passive design, bringing that winter sun in, using that free energy to heat your house and to create that stable temperature day and night. That's what it does. It just stabilizes. It just makes such sense. It's free. Our climate is perfectly set up for it. And what that takes is to put that consideration into orientation and to customize the design a bit. So it means investing a little bit more upfront in design.
Yeah.
And, I think only 5% of homes in Australia are architecturally designed.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that 50% of them have to be, but there's plenty of building designers that get this.
Yeah.
But I think maybe that's another comparison that I've noticed between Denmark and Australia. Denmark's an extremely design-oriented country. I noticed, like in the classroom with all the carpentry apprentices, if they were going out to buy their phone or whatever, they'd be spending, I don't know, a month's wages on this Bang & Olufsen phone, and it's like, my gosh, it just became so clear to me how much they value good design.
Yeah. And
I think in Australian society it's probably somewhat less. Certainly in pockets it's very highly a high value placed on it, but generally it's probably not enough.
Well, we're going to talk about wellbeing in a moment, but I feel like a really well designed home, a really well thought out home, it invokes a feeling. And that it's hard to describe the feeling, but it's almost like you see something you like, and it's almost like a massage on your eyes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I spoke to Stephen from Thursday Architecture, and we were talking about what architecture was like, and my description of architecture is good architecture and good design invokes a feeling in you. Usually that's like calming or, but
absolutely. And I mean, your expression massaging the eyes is one thing. And also that I think it can be quite inspiring. And we hear that from some of our clients that their lives, they've said that genuinely their lives are being transformed in this home, in homes that really understand how we live.
Yeah.
Because often design is kind of reduced to just boxes and putting boxes together.
Yeah.
But that's where good design and good architects, good designers, they really understand how we live.
Yeah.
And really promote we have clients that just say, my lifestyle's been transformed, and I genuinely thanks for that.
It's almost like subconscious wellness,
Yeah.
Like the more you're in an environment you enjoy and it calms you down, the better off you are, in your brain and in everything you do.
Yeah.
It's like talking to you, Tom. Every time I talk to you, I feel better. I said that to you on the phone yesterday. Are clients asking for smarter homes now, or are builders driving it?
That's a good question. I suppose going back to that Jigsaw example where we offered it, and then suddenly we discovered, wow, there is such an appetite for this.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's necessarily one or the other, but to any building companies out there, I find that if you're communicating the logic and rationale for building smarter, more energy efficient homes. Look, definitely, I suppose in the 15 years that we've been focused in this space, it is so much more mainstream. And the reasons for that are that people are more, energy costs have gone up.
Yep.
I mean, you can see that just in the uptake of solar panels, for example. But just to be clear, solar panels is about generating power.
Yeah.
Building an energy efficient home is building a home that requires very little energy in the first place to keep it comfortable. Rising energy bills, and awareness, concerns about climate change, so a conscience and a responsibility about building in sensible ways.
Yeah. I think we definitely have to take the energy efficiency into consideration a lot more. I feel like, there is energy we can harness there for free, being the sun. And I think through good design, we should be utilising it always. I'd love to see more of a focus on that in some of the, the lower cost homes that are being built, because I feel like there's a real opportunity there to, lower people's energy, power bills, just through good design.
Yep. And I think Xavier, that's the holy grail, and that's our
it is
sort of mission, I think, to try to find that affordable, energy efficient, and healthy home. And healthy home is the other aspect to this, which we're just sort of playing catch up, I think, in Australia around energy efficiency. But in other parts of the world, there's much more awareness about what makes a healthy home, and that stems from looking at all the materials that we're using. For example, MDF and the formaldehyde in it, the off-gassing, VOCs, volatile organic compounds. What we're building our house with has a big impact on our health.
Our health, yeah, definitely. The pressure treated timber as well. I know that in a lot of passively constructed homes, they don't use pressure treated. They use, is it H1? No, it's not even. It's untreated. Is it?
Yes. I mean, well, for example, we don't use MDF, any skirtings or fistings or like. Oh, look, there is some of it in the joinery. You can't avoid some of it, but where possible, we'll avoid it. Just having a focus on and all low VOC paints. Fortunately, that's pretty standard now, so it's not something that you need to fight for. But that's a growing space and awareness around what makes a healthy home.
And so when a client comes to you and you start to put all of this together, and you're going through their requirements or their lifestyle and things like that, how do you communicate all this stuff to them? Like, how do you, there's a lot there. Are they well researched? They're coming in and saying, look, Tom, I know what you do. You're good at it. This is my vision. And then you sort of, is that how it operates? Like, tell me about 35 degrees.
Yep, sure. So our business is a collaboration. So we work very closely with an architecture firm called Sense of Space. An architect called Silas Gibson. And so what we really strongly believe in is that for a successful project, it means, okay, let's paint the picture of the stereotype. And that is that a client might go to a designer or an architect and they'll get a beautiful design drawn up. They take it to the builder and, oh no, this is twice the budget. What are we going to do? Start pulling it apart, tearing the heart out of the design. And so by having a builder and an architect working from the outset with a client. So to answer your question, we'll asking lots of questions and really understanding, Xavier, what do you and your wife want in this home? What's working in your current home? What's not? Getting that list of needs and wants and clarifying that those are two different things. Clarifying priorities, understanding what your budget is, having really frank discussions about the budget up front. Because what we want to do is
maximize.
The word I love is optimize.
Yeah.
So we're about making architecture accessible and doing that through cost certainty. And so we want to optimize their budget, optimize their block, optimize the sustainability. And so the way we do that, put all those understand their priorities, understand the budget, and we can start creating some parameters for the design. So before you even start on the design, you're creating some parameters to hand over to the architect. And I can say, all right, Silas, look, based on the budget and what they're wanting to achieve here, we're looking at a house with 180 square meters of living in a double garage with 40 square meters. And there's this beautiful saying, and it goes, creativity loves boundaries. And what that means is,
that's an interesting one.
It is an interesting one because in one way it's counterintuitive. You think of creativity as some free ranging, considering
outside the box. You think of
exactly. But in fact, when we put a box around it and say work within these constraints, that's where you get amazing, fantastic results. Or your creativity is able to range within those parameters.
Well, I can think of innovation would come in there, right? If you've got these parameters to work within, that's it. So you've got to come up with something that works for that.
That's right. And so that budget becomes a parameter. The client's priorities become the parameter. The constraints and opportunities on the block. And then we, through that design process, we'll be doing costings at each step of the way. Silas, I sort of joke, he gets the good cop role. He gets to tempt the client with all these beautiful ideas. And then I come in, I'm the boring bad cop and say, oh, I'm sorry, that beautiful recycled timber cladding that Silas has just tempted you with to clad the pantry walls is actually going to blow the budget. But it's that we're talking about, that creative tension and working together, collaboration. And I think that for us, that's the recipe for success for projects where we can optimize sustainability in homes and optimize their clients' budgets, but also create as smooth a process as possible and transition from design right through to
construction and then handover and away you go.
Handover and
Going through your social media, 35 degrees on the Instagram, the feeling I got was warmth from a lot of your designs, and you had some really cool videos about little features that you add into like the way I would describe it is, oh, that's neat, like a carpenter would say, that's neat. So congratulations on that. And I think from what you've just said, in terms of optimizing the client's budget and their value, I couldn't agree more. Some of the kitchens you've designed and some of the living spaces you've designed, warmth is the way I would describe them.
Oh, nice. I like that. And also what that triggers for me is it's about relationships too. And the connection and warmth that we establish with our clients. Because nailing bits of timber together or laying bricks is one thing, but at the end of the day, it's about the people we work with. And I'm sure this is the same for you and your team, Xavier. And I think for me, this has really been rammed home during COVID. Just that the connections with the clients and within our team, with our extended family of subcontractors and suppliers. That's a key part of the satisfaction that I derive from my work. And I think what drives our business, that into the personal connectedness. And
absolutely. I think you got to feel connected to the client to be able to deliver, an amazing build, and you want to do the best for your clients, right? What's one step every home, or what did we say the question was going to be?
The question I think you started with was, what's one thing to include in a home, or that you'd always include in a home?
In Canberra,
Look, these days with air tightness levels, that they're so important, and the industry is, all the building code is taking us in this direction where I think we will have to pressure test our homes in the future, which is standard in other parts of the world to quantify how airtight homes are. So we're being taken in that direction, which is definitely a good thing. We've been pressure testing all our homes for the last 15 years to quantify our work and learn how to do it better. But with that greater levels of air tightness, having mechanical ventilation is a growing importance.
Yep.
So which provides a lot of benefits to create healthy homes.
Yep.
And
when you say mechanical, you mean a Velux with a wind open up in the ceiling, or what do you mean?
So what I mean is, so the technical term is a heat recovery ventilation system, or HRVS.
Yeah.
So it's a unit that sucks fresh air into the house.
Yep.
And it's pulling stale air out of the house.
Yep.
So on the more larger systems, it'll be running through to all different parts, all rooms of the house.
Yep.
Because in the colder months or the very hot months, you're wanting to keep the doors and windows closed.
Yep.
And it's creating fresh air.
Yep.
It's dealing with condensation levels. And in times of bushfires like we had in 2019, it's also filtering the air outside.
Yeah, right. Really good point there. Yeah, and I feel definitely through COVID, like we got some air purification units put in here, and you can, we used to put candles and stuff in there, and then I found out that candles are bad for you, so I got rid of them. They've got the air purity. What does it do? It sends out mists out there, to, I guess, make it feel a little bit nicer.
Yeah, well, those bushfires, it really brought our awareness to the air that we're breathing.
It did, definitely, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk to you about mental health, and I want to talk to you about your passion project. Now, you mentioned it to me on the phone. Tell me about it. What are you doing, Tom?
25 years ago, I did a course in breathwork and meditation.
Yep.
And I practice that every morning. And you're looking at me a bit strange, thinking, what are you talking about? And so
no, I've got a few friends that do it. I know a little bit about it, but I sort of look at it and go, oh, maybe I need to know more about that.
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, have you ever practiced meditation?
I have, actually. I went to a meditation session in Palmerston once.
Oh yeah. How did you find that?
I have a very active mind. I found it challenging, to be honest.
And that's the thing. A lot of people do. And that's where the other aspect of this comes in, and that's the breathing.
Yeah.
And, people are thinking, breathing? Are you serious? You need to teach people how to breathe? Is that like, I need to learn how to blink or to digest my food? That's just...
Seems like a natural...
That's taken care of by the autonomic nervous system.
Yeah.
But the breath is unique in that it has an effect on our state of mind and our emotions.
Yep.
And here's a question for you. Have you ever, could you describe the rhythm of your breath when you're angry, Xavier? I know you never get angry, but if you're angry, could you describe what your rhythm of your breath might be?
Probably short and shallow.
Short and shallow. That's right. And if you were sad, how would you describe your rhythm of your breath?
Long. I don't know.
Yeah.
Long and drawn out, and
Yeah, and often it's sort of a sort of imbalanced sort of breath. It might be a short sort of intake, and then a really heavy sort of slow sort of exhale. That sort of heavy sigh.
Yeah.
And what about when you're happy, really content?
Yeah, probably deep. I think I would breathe. Want to take it all in.
Yeah. Deep. It's almost imperceptible, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. I've never thought about it before.
Yeah. It's that's the interesting thing. We as kids, we might have been told, don't get angry or, don't stress. But the question is how? It's all well and good to tell me that. Actually, you're only making me more annoyed by telling me don't get stressed or don't get angry. So the question is how, and that's where the breath is this magic tool right under our nose, because, not only does when we're angry or for example, let's say we've had a difficult encounter at work or or at home, and we start thinking about it, that's enough to bring up these emotions of anger or whatever it might be. And unbeknown to us, our breathing pattern is changing, and this sort of vicious cycle starts, and we can't rid ourselves of this negative thought that we're plagued with.
Yep.
But it's not a one-way street. The thing here is that it's a two-way street. By consciously, by breathing intentionally, and breathing more in a more deeper pattern, we're able to change our emotional state.
Yep.
The quality of our life depends on the state of our mind.
Yep.
And the breath is that tool. It's that connection between the outer world and our inner world.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do an example. Really simple breathing exercise.
Yeah.
Would you like to try one?
I would. Yeah.
Okay. So
just before we get into this,
yeah,
I've been really hyped up all morning, and I had to go for a drive to calm down because I was so excited and all that thing. So I've been really excited for this. Yeah. What are we doing?
All right. Let's take that excitement. Well, place your hand on your belly,
mm-hmm.
and sit back in the chair, and just take a deep breath in through your nose. As you're doing it, feeling your belly expand, and then breathe out through your mouth. To face away from this microphone. And just continue doing that. Breathing in through the nose. That's good. You've closed your eyes, just taking the focus inwards. If you're listening to this podcast, give this a try. You want to feel your belly raising as you're inhaling and breathing out. And once again, deep breath in and exhaling and opening your eyes.
I feel much better.
Do you? How does the mind feel just now?
Yeah, calm, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what was that, 15 seconds. And that's a super easy breathing exercise. But we were talking about meditation before. By using the breath it's that connection between the tangible and the intangible,
mm-hmm.
and allows us to calm our mind, and then can take us into effortless meditation. I was saying earlier that I first did this course. It was when I was an apprentice, actually, in Denmark.
Yeah.
I'd been reading some books about living in the present moment and using the breath to live more in the present moment. I was like, well, that sounds good. And someone gave me a flyer for this course run by an organisation called The Art of Living,
mm-hmm.
this worldwide organisation that's been around for around 40 years. It was started in India. It sort of falls under that Vedic umbrella of knowledge, or you might say sort of yogic sciences.
Yep.
And did this course, and doing these breathing exercises, I was just astounded at the energy that was in my system.
Mm-hmm.
And I came to work on the Monday morning after doing that, and I kind of felt more intelligent. Now, I was a bit disappointed to discover I wasn't, but what was going on with these breathing exercises, it's so effective at shedding our stress.
Yeah.
And when I say stress, there's a whole spectrum of stress. There's those moments when we totally go off the charts.
Yeah.
I think us builders know as many situations where
there's a few of those we deal with.
Yeah. That. But then there's the subtle stress, and that's just when when you're doing something, and
it's the death by 1,000 cuts. It's the little things each day that the rock in the shoe or the.
And here's an example of that. When you've been doing something and 10 minutes has gone by and you realize you haven't been at all present in what you're doing. Your mind is elsewhere. And when we're stressed, our mind goes to one of two places, either the past or the future.
Mm.
And often when our minds are in the past, we're caught up in negative emotions. It might be anger at something that's happened. It might be regret. As is also positive things. We might be glorifying the past, but often it's negative sort of emotions.
Yeah.
Or our mind, when we're stressed, might be in the future. We're sort of anxious about something that's coming up, or fearful. But it's only in the present moment when our mind, we've got joy, contentment, satisfaction, inspiration, creativity, innovation, all of those positive things in life is only when we're in that present moment.
Yeah.
And, another example when we're in the work, when we've been doing something we love, or we're in that zone, that focus,
flow state.
Exactly. That's when the mind's in the present moment. And that's where, using the breath is what is such a powerful tool to bring us into that state for two reasons. One is that the breath is always in the present moment, but it's also connected to those, the connection with our emotions and our ability to calm.
You're oxygenating, the brain, right?
Yeah, that's right. And I suppose that's connected to our energy levels because, stress, would you, Xavier, stress is often when we don't have much time, but we've got a lot to do and we've got low energy. And we can't change the number of hours in the day. We can't really change how much we've got on our to-do list. We can to some extent, but generally it seems the older we get, the more responsibilities what we've got.
Yeah, definitely.
So really the only thing that leaves us with is to increase our energy levels. And according to the yogic sciences, the 4 key sources of energy is food and water.
Yep.
Lump those together. And food, there's a whole lot on that, what's healthy food and what's food that's going to drain your energy, but that's commonly known.
Yep.
Sleep, reasonable amounts of sleep at reasonable times. Mm-hmm. Again, a lot of work on that. But the other 2 is the breath.
Yep.
And the 4th one is a calm and meditative state of mind. And that could be when we're doing, what are some of your hobbies? What things do you love doing?
I love work. I love playing golf. I love playing cricket. I love sport. I love riding bikes.
Right.
I love being with my kids and,
right.
And I love hanging out with my wife.
Right.
I love little projects at home,
And all of those things in one way or another relate to that calm and meditative state of mind, being with your kids, being around people we love, listening to music, listening to an inspiring talk, podcast.
Yeah.
All of those things. So, so it comes back to managing our energy. And the breath is one of those things that can help us manage our energy and bring us into that meditative state of mind.
Can I just mention there, I feel like mindset for me is really important, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I have to check myself because I get in an overexcited mindset.
Right.
And I feel like, what you've just said is if I could concentrate on breath work and calming my mind and then, focus on that positive mindset that is productive as well, not just manic sort of type thing. That's where that could really work well for me.
Absolutely. And that's a really good example because I was dwelling on some of the negative things, but excitement, absolutely being able to, and that very simple exercise that I just taught you, there's another very good one called alternate nostril breathing.
Yep.
Which I often do. Actually, to be honest, I did it I just went and used the bathroom before I came in here.
Yep.
Just did that. It's a very good way to balance the mind, the left and right hemispheres of the brain, settle yourself down so that, just bringing that calm and clarity and focus to what we do. Along with building, one of my great passions is, I first did what's called the happiness program with Art of Living 27 years ago.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago, achieved a very long-held ambition to become a teacher in that breathwork and meditation. So I spent some time over in India becoming a teacher.
Yep.
And so these days, that's Art of Living is a not-for-profit charity. So that work I do is voluntary.
Yep.
We charge for the courses we do. It goes to an incredible range of social projects around the world.
Yeah, and you do that here in Canberra, right?
Yes. Yep. So once a month we teach the happiness program, which is a a 3-day program. It's 9 hours spent, 3 hours over 3 consecutive days, where we teach these really powerful breathing exercises that gives you a toolkit to, it's not just the course. You're walking away with these tools that you can, if you choose to, you can use them every morning, which is what I do. This podcast, it's aimed at the building industry and tradespeople. It's a hard gig. It's a really hard industry. And I was looking at these stats last night. The rate of suicide in the construction industry is double any other industry in Australia. It's a really concerning fact. It is. There's that. There's also the rates of antidepressant use in Australia is, I believe it's about 1/5 of the population. And that's not just an Australian problem, that's global. I think the World Health Organization is now lists depression as the biggest disability in the world. And sky breath meditation, which is the particular type of the type of breathing exercise we teach at the happiness program, is very effective at dealing with depression, dealing with sleep, anxiety and stress. There's been a huge number of scientific research done on it. A lot of that was in some of the universities like Stanford and Yale in the US. Interestingly, they now run they teach sky breath meditation, the happiness program, essentially for their undergraduate courses. You have to, as an undergraduate in those universities, you need to do a sport in your first year at uni. To meet your criteria, you can also learn these breathing exercises, because what they found through their research is that how effective these are at dealing with anxiety, which university kids it's a big problem, anxiety and depression.
Mental health is such a big problem.
Yes,
I feel like if we were a little bit more proactive and we spoke about this stuff a bit more, like having you in to have a conversation here, I think if we could help one person to go and do your course and I guess be proactive about trying to be better, or what would you call it?
What would I call it? I'd call it mental hygiene.
Mental hygiene. That's a really good one.
We learn as kids to brush our teeth and practice dental hygiene. And we don't just start doing that. It's a practice. We need to, our parents are there to coach us in doing that. But mental hygiene, learning to, each day, we're going through so many different situations and incidents, and what we're picking up is all these little impressions on the mind, picking up all this stress, and practicing mental hygiene, and for me that's doing some breathing exercises that can then lead you into being able to make meditation effortless. Meditation, it releases all those impressions on the mind. It releases that stress and allows us to then meet the day with that clarity, that calmness, and that centeredness, present, so that we're not being so reactive. Definitely. And responding to situations where adding fuel to the fire, but instead just calmly being able to respond. Xavier, you were saying before we need to talk about this as in mental health. Fortunately, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, it really did become a topic that, taboos were broken down and we were able to talk about it. But what we're talking about today, it's more, I was saying, we know it's important, but what's the how? How do you deal with these things? And that's where, breathwork and meditation is that. It's the how, it's the tool that we can be using to manage it.
Well, I'll put some information up for maybe in the bio of the YouTube video, so people can reach out to you or come along and do a course. And
please do. It's as simple as looking up Art of Living, the website, worldwide organisation. You can do a search there for Canberra. regular courses here, and virtually every city in the world you'll find these courses being run by.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, looking ahead, what's next for 35 Degrees, Tom?
What's next? It's emerging from a very flat and frustrating period through COVID, post-COVID.
Yeah.
I think one of your questions was, what's the state of the industry? For us, it's been surviving, quite frankly. We found it really challenging. Interesting, the first couple of years of COVID, we sort of sailed through, but it was those latter stages where the prices went really crazy. And we were really lucky to have some really understanding clients that helped us through a sticky situation with fixed prices. But it's been very flat in terms of earnings. We've just been surviving.
Yeah.
But there's been some really positive things that came out of that. We implemented some open book business management practices.
Yep.
So helping, educating all our staff to understand the numbers in the business, what makes the business tick, how they can influence the outcomes, giving them a stake in the outcome.
Their impact.
That's right.
Yeah.
And what that's done, it's created a very open and dynamic work culture where people's ideas are constantly being sought. And it's amazing when you ask questions of all your employees, and I understand you run your business with the same philosophy, but calling on employees' ideas and feedback, and the business becomes so much stronger, more resilient. That's been a personal transformation for me, that moment of kind of saying, I don't have the answers. I might be the business owner, but I'm not necessarily the smartest guy. I've just made a whole lot of mistakes that I've slowly been learning from.
Yeah.
But now we've got this culture where we've got a leadership team where I'm constantly calling on their input.
Yeah.
And the business has shifted from a structure that was probably structured around my personal strengths, but also my weaknesses and my inclinations and foibles. And it's moving to a far more rational and just far improved business. So
everyone takes more responsibility.
They do. They
want to see the success.
Yeah.
And I feel like my guys, when there's a successful project, they walk, and they've got their chests out a little bit,
absolutely,
a little bit more, and they have this. Arrogance is a negative word, but it is. I want it to be positive in this way. Like, hey, I smashed that one. Give me the next one. Where is it?
Well, I would say that word is pride. Because that's what we see with our team. That it's that we're all. So part of open book management, it's about giving a stake in the outcome. So having a profit sharing scheme.
Yep.
And we've been running this system for 2 years, and the reality is, we haven't shared any profits.
Yep.
There hasn't been enough to share around. We've just been making do.
Yeah.
But despite that, the level of engagement from the team and their motivation, and I think the fact that they can see that the progress that we're making and improvements, that in itself is such a massive motivator. So post this election, things settling down in the industry, we're hoping that we can see some of these, the gains from a lot of these changes that we've been making.
I'm really excited for the future.
Yes.
Really excited for it.
Yeah.
What kind of projects are you chasing, Tom?
A lot of our work is around new builds of high energy efficient homes. But we also do renovations and extensions. Mm-hmm. I think if we claim that we're passionate about sustainability, we always need to keep a hand in that place. And we're also seeing a lot of requests for that, inquiries about that work, because the cost of building has gone up so much in the last 4 years. That is a more achievable option for many, renovating.
Definitely.
So that's...
And it's good to renew your home, in terms of a renovation.
Yes. Yep.
What does success look like for you in 10 years?
Success, there's different definition of success I really love, and that is keeping a smile through the good and the bad. So yeah, that's what's success. That's maybe the more philosophical. Maybe you're asking for the more practical here. Let me give the more practical one. Like our mission is to make energy efficiency more mainstream in Canberra, but it's also to try to find a more affordable way to deliver on it.
Yeah.
And so searching for that, I was saying before, that holy grail.
Yeah.
So when we're doing research in that area, we're working with been working with the University of Canberra, so the researcher and professor there, exploring how we can deliver more sustainable homes, but also more affordable ones. So there's a lot in that space. Love an opportunity to talk more about that another time with you, Xavier.
We've got to have you back. 100%. Final bit of advice for anyone about to build.
Okay. Oh, I thought you were going to give me some advice. I'd be able to sit back and hear some of your wisdom. Final bit of advice, I would say, if you're looking at building, engage a architect and a builder, or a designer and a builder. So you're having dual conversations. You're having conversations about beautiful designs as well as the practicalities and the costs. And by doing so, you will set yourself up for a far more smooth and successful outcome.
Perfect.